I spoke to you guys earlier in the week. I spoke to you, well, I believe yesterday, as a matter of fact, about an argument I was having with my friend Reese over NASCAR. Now, that's pretty simple. I said my piece. I would love a rebuttal. I'm a really good guy to argue with. You will find this if we ever meet or even go in the comment section. Because I'm willing to be wrong. If I am confronted with evidence I had not previously considered, I am willing to change my mind. Okay. I say that because if Reese would like to respond and let me know his justification and or head count for 300,000 people at a NASCAR race in Indianapolis, right? Teach me something new. I laid my case out. Well, Tommy from the Bronx saw the piece, and he let me know, hey, Chael, Reese isn't actually as far off as you think. Reese just has this tool by the wrong end. There is 300,000-ish people. You know, Tommy was pretty clear to go, hey, look, that's a round number. If you go read what the media said, they said 300,000. They didn't say 299,999. They didn't say 301,000. They said 300,000, which a reasonable person should know is a really good guess. Nothing is 300,000 with all zeros. That's a great point by Tommy. That's a really good point. Okay, so we weren't to take this literal. All right. News, it's a media report, but that's fair. That's okay. He said, here's what Reese isn't getting. The Indianapolis 500 specifically is a 3-day event. And Tommy laid it out. I don't have it. I have to go back to the tab. But it was, like the monster trucks are one day and the something else is the next day. And then you've got the Indianapolis 500. And that's really relevant because he said when those reports come up, the tickets, it could be the same person coming through the gate. Different sessions of different day, that counts as one. So in total, they do 300,000. Now, that might bother you, but it didn't bother me because I come from the sport of wrestling, and we do that same thing. It is wildly misleading. We will hold the NCAA tournament. It is the only wrestling event on American soil that sells out. It is the only packed house for wrestling that you can count on every single time. And we've played venues, St. Louis specifically, that had 17,000 seats. That's big. That's bigger than we usually play. But we did sell them all out. And when wrestling reported it, it was 250,000 people had come. But it was a 3-day event. It was the same 17,000. And then they put 3 sessions in each day. So you took 17,000 times 3, and that's where they kicked out the number. Now, that is misleading and dishonest. I'm just sharing with you that when Tommy says that's what NASCAR does, I do understand that some people do that, and it is wildly misleading, but they do it. And Tommy said, moreover, when the media report said it was 300,000 to the Indianapolis 500, they were counting all 3 of these days in each session. Okay. Went further to say, yes, Reese is wrong. It seats at absolute capacity when the fire marshal steps in and cuts you off. And every building in America has something known as a fire code, where you cannot bring any more people in, and that number on that fire certificate happens to be 101,000 and change. So I am completely right in this argument. My friend Reese is completely wrong, but we'll see if he comes to the table, and that is only if the information that Tommy gave me is correct, which is our entire debate. It's not me versus Reese. It's a debate over the information that's being put out. All right. So when I made that piece, there was some comment sections because I had very gently set down the fact that NASCAR is scripted. It's not, I don't know what to call it. I don't like to call it fake. You call professional wrestling that word fake. It really upsets people. Because you don't call a movie fake. You don't call Shakespeare's work fake. You don't call Seinfeld and Saturday Night Live. You don't call those things fake. You call them a movie, and then the fact that it's not real speaks for itself. You've only got 2 kinds of stories that you could tell on all of the face of the earth. You got fiction, you got nonfiction. So I don't like the word fake. So I want to extend that over to, I don't want to call it fake, but I wouldn't be wrong if I did. it's presented in one way that's not a reality. I don't know the definition of the word fake, but it sounds like something presented in one way that's not. So I'll avoid the word fake and I'll really water it down and we'll just go with scripted. It's scripted. All right. And I thought this was very well known and I set that down in my piece, but I read in the comment sections a number of people go, Chael, I didn't know that. I had never even considered that. And other people that go, yeah, Chael, everybody knows that. And other people said, hey, I pushed back. What are you talking about? This is scripted. All right. Well, how are you going to prove it? All right. But how are you going to prove it? How do I prove that Hulk Hogan did not slam Andre the Giant at the Pontiac Silverdome in front of 93,000 people, leaving the Giant unable to move, giving the Hulkster enough time to spring off the rope, drop the leg, and cover him 1, 2, 3? How do I do that? And a general answer that did happen in wrestling, it was never meant to happen, but it has happened now, is what we call the revealing of the fourth wall, where the wrestlers come out and they talk about it. Where you have an interview by Andre the Giant that says, yes, we worked it all out, and that's what we were supposed to do, and I agreed to put Hogan over, and Hogan said, yeah, we worked out the script, and we're in the back with the booker, and even Vince didn't know, and they come and tell the story, and then we all just accept it. Aha, they admitted it. Well, how do we know that that shoot isn't the work? I mean, how do you actually know? How philosophical do you want to get on this? And NASCAR is a very obvious one. It's very obvious, but maybe more so for me. Okay, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. NASCAR not only does the same thing over and over, they get a different result. Any one of you that has a car could go pick any one of your friends and agree to race them in your car. I suggest you don't do that, but if you did, one of you is going to win. One of you has the faster car. You don't now need to race again tomorrow at noon and the next day at 3 and a week from now. If you're the same two people and you're in the same cars, we know who's going to win the race, right? I mean, it's one of these very obvious things, but NASCAR does it every single week or every single month, whatever the hell they race. And they get a different result. They get it to the point that I very loosely follow NASCAR, but I do very specifically remember a driver that won 3 races in a row, and it was like a shocking streak. Shocking. I'm looking around going, he's racing the same guys that he already beat. I mean, this is a pretty obvious one. Now, when I say it's more obvious for me, my father was a horseman, so I grew up on the backside of a track. You're training the horses, you're feeding the horses, you're grooming the horses, you're getting the horses ready to walk them out front, to race them in front of people who are betting their money. Now, the truth is, we only got so many horses. That's just the reality. So each week, if anybody was to follow the programs and be a real smart mark, it's the same horses taking on each other. So how do we get an industry to stay alive? How do we get people to come to the track? How do we get them to bet their money? How do we get them to passionately believe that they're going to get a different result when you're doing the exact same thing? Well, real easy. We only had to do 2 things in horse racing. We had to change the position the horse was in, right? Okay, well, yeah, he broke out of gate 1, but now he's going to break out of number gate 6, and we're going to take the horse that was in 6, and we're going to put him in gate 2. There is no truth to any of that, to pole position. It is simply not true. And if you ever watch track and field, you understand that it's absolutely has nothing to do with it. But we presented that, and society ate it up. They took it. So we went one step further, which was to talk about the conditions of the racetrack. Yes, we know it's the same 8 horses, but not only have we changed what gate they'll break out of, their pole position, it's now rained. How will that horse do in a mud? Now, if you're a horse guy, and I was forced into it, I didn't really enjoy the horse, but I was a horse guy my whole life, you know it doesn't change. And 0, nothing. Doesn't matter if the sun's shining, doesn't matter if there's snow on the ground. It is the exact same thing. But we were able to present this to the public, and we were able to get away with it for well over 100 years. We're still getting away with it today. Take the same horses, you can do a whole goddamn season, and you just change the order of it, and you talk about what the dirt is like. Great. My mother had told me, so it's very obvious for me, it's all that I share. Of course, NASCAR is predetermined. And my mother had told me when I was a kid, and you guys will be related to this, anything that your mother told, do you believe in ghosts? Whatever your answer is, isn't anything that you've done through physics or your own research. It's whatever your mother told you when you were a little kid and you asked her, is there ghosts? It's the same belief that you have in the afterlife. It isn't the research that you've done or the journey you've gone on. It's whatever your mom told you. Okay. Well, my mom happened to tell me when I was a little kid, hey, you got to understand this. When we get to the finals for the NBA, they're not playing basketball games over a course of time to see who has more points at the end of it. You will never see a best of 7 series that ends in 4. But she just told me that it would stop all commerce. It would stop all business. Now, in the course of my lifetime, and again, I'm not a huge basketball follower, but I believe that has happened one time. I believe there's only been one time that was a complete sweep. My mother's statement did turn out to be true. Now, that doesn't make it factual that they're rigging basketball. That was her very loose observation that she went and shared with me. Speculative at best. However, 2 months ago, it finally comes out. Yes, the NBA rigs the best of 7 to the best of their ability. They don't sit down with the players and explain to them. There's not some massive secret that has to be kept. The NBA, in a very closed and tight room, going into the games that have not yet to flip-flop, will then strategically pick who's going to officiate those games. And they will do that based on data and having a very clear idea that this person is going to help this team. But you're never going to have the conversation, so nobody's ever going to get put in handcuffs. You're going to do it through other operations. And it's true. That is what happened. There is a reason that the same team can play to the exact same team on the exact same court with the exact same balls over the exact same time period and get a different result. There are times that you could do that in all fairness and very, very competitive in real sports. The sport of amateur wrestling, it's rare. You don't generally flop it back and forth. Generally, one guy will win no matter how tight it is, and he'll win 6, 7 in a row, and the other guy will slip one in. In a real competitive sport, it generally doesn't change. There is the right competition, and of course there are stories for that, but I think that I was more surprised for the people that were surprised that that's not a straight shoot. And I could go even further. I mean, I could dig into the history of it. I'm never going to get above speculative, but the same uneducated Southern white males that NASCAR survived on is the exact same demographic that professional wrestling survived on. And it's very hard because you think that you need all the players. You think that you need people in on it. You think that you need a big conspiracy when you don't. You just need a couple of smart guys in a room that can keep their mouths shut to go and observe who they're going to put to officiate it. That's what basketball did, and they just got outed for it. And quite frankly, it's not all that big of a conspiracy. Conspiracy only happens when there's a direct conversation. You were going to go down in round 2. Do you understand? If you have anything absent of that, there's not a whole lot to see here. My mother was right in her contention. I think I'm right in my contention. There's my statements. I think.